Welcome to Pearl Church. My name is Ben and I'm one of the pastors here. We're glad you've joined us for our Good Friday service. As our service begins, tonight we will be celebrating a Tenebrae service, which is where we slowly descend into shadows. And to do so, you're invited to get 3 candles and to have them lit at the beginning of the service. So if you have 3 candles at hand that you could put in front of you and light wherever you are throughout the service, you'll be invited to extinguish those candles one at a time as our service proceeds. Today is Good Friday. Here in the midst of a terribly difficult year, we ache, mourn, and wonder about God's plan and goodness. Here at the pinnacle of darkness, we bear witness to the death of Jesus. As we do this, we ask questions, mourn, grieve, and recall that the divine shares with us in our sorrows. We remember the death of Jesus at the hands of empire. We turn our eyes to the self-giving love of God. We hear the lamentations and cries of all who long for justice. We begin humbly, ponder deeply, and will depart quietly this evening with hearts centered on the crucifixion of Christ. You will observe a diminishing of light throughout the service in the pattern of Tenebrae worship. Tenebrae means shadows, and so our worship will include an experience of the shadows that Christ endured.
You are welcome to be here now. Every memory is welcome to be here now. Every hurt is welcome to be here now. Every doubt and every question is welcome to be here now. Every part of you belongs in this silent and sacred space. I invite you to join me by first finding yourself in a seated, upright position. And notice your breath just for a moment to center here. And take a deep breath in and exhale. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." I invite you to pray this verse with me in a diminishing fashion by repeating the following phrases after me. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. You are welcome to be here now.
My God, why have you forsaken me? My God, Why have you forsaken me? All who see me scoff at me. They mock me with parted lips, they wag their heads. He relied on the Lord, let him deliver him. Let him rescue him if he loves him. My God, why have you forsaken me?
A reading from Luke 23. As they led him away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.'" The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. God in the loss of life. Sign me up, right? No way. I prefer to avoid loss, shun pain and discomfort, steer clear of and minimize loss in my life. I like to stick to the people and the places and activities I have control of and certainty connected to. That feels safe. Anybody else with me? But the thing about this path of safety, I've noticed, is that it requires very little faith. And the outcomes of life, for better or for worse, is what I make of it. A life of faith, however, leaves room for doubt, mystery, and uncertainty. It relinquishes control over outcomes, and it allows people and places and events to shape my soul. I agree with author Anne Lamott, who says that the opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. The opposite of faith is not doubt, as so many of us have been taught to think of it. But the opposite of faith is certainty. Certainty. Over the last year, certainty has slipped through our fingers, hasn't it? With loss after loss after loss after loss, flooding our consciousness in a steady flow of challenges and changes, bringing many of us and our loved ones to the lowest places within ourselves that we've ever experienced. Certainty? I'm afraid I don't have much. But questions, doubts, apprehensions, and fears? Yeah, I have many. It's my belief that naming, sitting with, weeping over, and feeling the depth of all the uncertainty and loss that we're experiencing is, in fact, a great act of faith. Now, I could spend the next several minutes doing nothing but name the communal global losses from the past year, and I would only scratch the surface. But here's the thing, hearing words spoken out loud can sometimes communicate less than pure silence. Silence. Silence is people thinking. Silence is people feeling. Silence is sacred. It opens the soul to nuanced meaning and connection that words cannot express. Silence can hold all of our personal and communal losses, griefs, and doubts without judgment or criticism, without blaming or scapegoating. And so I invite you into a few moments of silence with me. I'll share a word or a short phrase, and then you're invited to silently name the loss or sorrow that you've experienced in the past year that's felt in response to the word that I speak. Sit with this sorrow and discomfort, doubt and uncertainty connected to your personal loss just for a moment. This silence is a brave and vulnerable work. So be gentle with yourself, with whatever surfaces here. Will you join me in silence? As you remember loss related to your work. Loss related to your health. Loss related to your family. Loss related to your friends. Loss related to your neighbors. Loss related to your country. Loss related to democracy. Loss related to this planet. Loss due to racism, discrimination. Loss due to police brutality and hate crimes. Lastly, loss of future outlook. The 40 days of Lent ends in death, causing the sky to turn dark and the veil of the temple to rip in two. The loss of the past year has blotted out the sun and torn our hearts in two as well. May we enter the silence of the tomb and by faith sit with all of these losses and the uncertainty that we have accrued.
In the darkness, can you hear
fluffy children, when we remember you, we grow, but our hearts cannot be silent. Oh God, be our song in the night when the light is gone. God, be our hope and be our strength, be our sheltering place, our song in the night. We are broken, are we forsaken? Has your love gone down with the sun? And all your mercy through all history, is it abandoned and undone? Oh, our hearts cannot be silent. Oh God, be our song in the night when the light is gone. God, be our hope and be our strength, be our sheltering place, our song in the night, our song in the night, our song in the night, our song in the night. Your road it led me down to the Red Sea. The waters trembled and you made a way. You raised your arm and led me to dry land. Lord, will you hear us when we say that our hearts cannot be silent? Oh God, be our song in the night when the light is gone. God, be our hope and be our strength, be our sheltering place, our song in the night, our song in the night, our song in the night, our song in the night. Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
My God, why have you forsaken me? My God, why have you forsaken me? All who see me scoff at me. They mock me with parted lips, they wag their hands. He relied on the Lord, let him deliver him. Let him rescue him if he loves him. My God, why have you forsaken me?
A reading from Mark 15. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, listen, he's calling for Elijah. And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The great theologian Stanley Auerbach once wrote, we Christians must situate our lives in relation to that life which came to make present the kingdom of God. Granted, it's much easier for us to focus our attention on Jesus' life than on his suffering, and yet taking the whole story, before resurrection is crucifixion. Before new life is that old enemy called death. Death. That is a very short 5-letter word that often fails to encompass that life, which is to situate our lives. However, right around the last third of each gospel, we're invited to follow Jesus as he intentionally sets his face toward Jerusalem, which is the beginning of his suffering that leads to his death. I mean, it isn't until the very end that Jesus dies, but from the time he sets his face toward Jerusalem, he begins to die, a very slow death. The chief priests and elders question his authority. The Pharisees try to trap him in his words. The Sadducees try to make him say something just so they can dismiss him. The religious and political leaders conspire to kill him. The crowds unjustly accuse him. One of his disciples betrays him. All of his disciples flee from him. The soldiers beat and mock him, and he's pinned to a tree on which he dies. And so Auerbach writes, you cannot know who Jesus is after the resurrection unless you have learned to follow Jesus during his life. His life and crucifixion are necessary to purge us. Like his disciples and adversaries had to be purged of false notions about what kind of kingdom Jesus has brought. You see, if we fail to tend to Jesus' suffering and death, then when we suffer, or when those we love suffer, or when humankind suffers, we may be quick to think that the divine is behind our suffering. Or we may be quick to think that the divine is oblivious to suffering. Or we may be quick to think that the divine is trying to rush us through death and into resurrection as quickly as possible. And yet, according to the Jesus story, the kind of kingdom that Jesus brought into this world is a kingdom that makes room for pain, loss, worry, suffering, and ultimately death. Death, to which we Christians often respond by saying, cheer up, turn that frown upside down. Death, to which we Christians often provide solutions, such as, the Lord will not give you more than you can bear, or the Lord will turn even this into good. But is that truly Christian? Is Christian life perpetual happiness, contentedness, and quick fixes no matter what chaos we find circling our lives and our world? For Matthew 26, Jesus took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. sorrowful and troubled. From Mark 14, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Overwhelmed to the point of death. From Luke 22, and being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. Sweat like drops of blood falling. If Christ is the enfleshment of the divine, then we clearly see that experiences of sorrow, trouble, worry, and agony are part of that life into which Jesus invites us all. And Job, that ancient character from the Bible, Job, he seems to have gotten it. Listen to his words from chapter 10. I loathe my life. I will give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. Oh, well, Mike, that's Job. Job struggled to trust in God. Well, what about this from Psalm 22? My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me, from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Well, yeah, Mike, but that's a poem by David. He was having a bad day and he wasn't always perfect. Well, what about this from Matthew chapter 27 and Mark chapter 15? At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, that is, my God, why have you forsaken me? If Christ is the enfleshment of the divine, then we not only see experiences of sorrow, trouble, worry, and agony, but we also see Jesus wondering, honestly and truly pondering, why God? Why, God, would you forsake me? You see, in the kingdom of Jesus, we observe the loss of God. The loss of a God who responds to our suffering and death by saying things like, cheer up, turn that frown upside down, don't worry, everything will get better, keep it positive. And instead, year by year, Lent by Lent, and Good Friday by Good Friday, we find a God. We find a God who breaks and bleeds and enters into suffering with every single one of us. And purging our false notions about what kind of kingdom Jesus has brought, we begin to bear witness to divine solidarity in every tear, divine solidarity in every worry, divine solidarity in every sleepless night, divine solidarity in every moment of suffering, and divine solidarity in every experience of death, even death itself.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
My God, why have you forsaken me? My God, why have you forsaken me? All who see me scoff at me. They mock me with parted lips, they wag their heads. He relied on the Lord, let him deliver him. Let him rescue him if he loves him. My God, why have you forsaken me?
A reading from John 19. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because of his fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission, so he came and removed his body. Nicodemus, who had at first come to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices in linen cloths, according to the burial customs of the Jews. Now there was a garden in the place where he was crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. And so, because it was the Jewish day of preparation and the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Today, I saw a post on social media by a well-meaning relative. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. I think we might be able to relate to that. Are we ready for some relief yet? For some light? The darkness of Good Friday is unsettling to a Christianity and a Western culture that have banished the night, that have exiled failure, that have turned our backs on death. When we catch a whiff of emptiness, we're anxious to fill it. When we sense sadness, we run to comfort. When we tell stories, the hero always manages to save the day just in the nick of time. We love success. We love the light. And so when it comes to Good Friday, it's tempting for us to read the experience of Jesus and the disciples as if the bright light of Resurrection Sunday were already breaking in, the conclusion foregone, the triumph and victory certain. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. I think we're drawn to see the story this way because it's the story we want our lives to tell. In the midst of our darkness, we grasp at any hint of light. When we find ourselves in wilderness, we look for the quickest route out. When we find ourselves brushing up against death, we look away as quickly as possible. And so when we read the story of the divine among us, narrating for us what God is up to in the world, we want to say, light. God is bringing light. God is making new. God is healing and saving and fixing and mending and resurrecting. Those things are true, but here's the thing about resurrection. If someone is resurrected, that means they really died. Take a moment and sit with this. In our sacred story, the hero dies, really dies. The empire wins. The friends scatter. The women, the only ones who have the courage to stay, the women weep. The body is held by a mother who really thought that her son was going to change everything. But he is dead. And the body, released to secret followers who wouldn't even acknowledge Jesus in the daytime, is wrapped. And the tomb is sealed. All is dark. We hope for escape. We hope for a way out of darkness. We hope for a road out of failure, away from disappointment. We try to cheat death. But sometimes the worst happens. In our stories too, the hero can die. The dream never materializes. The marriage cannot be rescued. The friendship is lost. The illness can't be healed. We come face to face with our vulnerability and frailty, and we, raised on stories of success and triumph, feel, but this is not what was supposed to happen. I was supposed to overcome. I was supposed to escape. But at the heart of the Christ story is a radical truth. The divine did not escape. Is there resurrection? Yes. And still, that does not diminish the reality of the death. In all the moments we cannot escape, we are in good company. When we feel we failed, the divine has failed with us. When we feel we have been betrayed, the divine has been betrayed with us. When we are oppressed, the divine has been oppressed with us. When we cannot be healed and face our own mortality, the divine has died with us. Now, for me, I would rather not go down this path of thought. When I think about this, I feel my chest constrict. I feel trapped, anxious, because I like living in a story where we always get to escape the bad thing. I want that story for myself. I want that story for my loved ones. I don't want to be told that the story I live in is one where the worst can happen. The loss of escape is the loss of control. But consider, what does the need to be in control, to escape the worst, what does that cost us? How much energy do we expend to make sure we are never caught off guard, never exposed, never vulnerable? How much strain are we under to guard against suffering, to keep loss at bay, to deny our failures, to be more than human? What if the divine in the tomb is saying, it is okay, in fact, to be human. It is okay that you will fail. It is okay that you grieve. It is okay that you are devastated at loss. It's okay that you didn't realize that dream. It's okay that you couldn't make it work. It's okay to admit that it's not okay. There is resurrection, yes, but it's okay to experience and to name and to sit with the loss. The Christ in the tomb honors, stays present to, names that the darkness too belongs. For what in the end is more human than for us to take one final breath and then at last to release? With Christ in the tomb, the divine tells us, you will not always escape. You don't have to. Christ is in this darkness also.
In the silence we wait, in the emptiness we wait, in the tomb we wait for you. In the darkness we wait, in the ashes we wait, in the grave we wait for you. In the silence we wait, in the emptiness we wait, in the tomb we wait for you. In the darkness we wait, in the ashes we wait, in the grave we wait for you. In the silence we wait, in the emptiness we wait, in the tomb we wait for you. In the darkness we wait, in the ashes we wait, in the grave we wait for you.
Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
With this service, we will end where we began. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." I invite you to pray this verse once again with me in a diminishing fashion by repeating the following phrases after me. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still